Welcome to Collecting Chaos. It's the Monday morning show. And of course, Monday morning I devote to talking a little about Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games in general. Now, we're not talking the role-playing games you do on a computer. We're talking about what you do, pen and paper, and on a table with friends. Provided you have all of those things. And I said this week I was going to actually produce an NPC. And part of that stems from it's time to start building a campaign. So the first thing you have to look at when you're building a campaign is the introduction of the video. And the second thing you have to look forward to, yeah, I almost forgot. The second thing you have to look forward to, or look to, what level is it geared to? Now, initially, when you're first running a campaign, it's best to gear it to starting players, or starting characters, first level. So when you're working on a first level, one of the things you have to do is figure out, okay, where are they going to be based out of? Is it going to be a town? Is it going to be a city? Is it going to be a place? How are they going to make money? No, obviously, they're going to make money by adventuring. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating a character that lives in the town. Now, in general, I believe it's best to have the townspeople slightly higher level than the player characters. So if your first level player character, your non-player characters are probably going to be first to third level, somewhere in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a blacksmith. And we're going to assume this is a journeyman blacksmith, so he's at least second level. So I'm going to roll a 6-sided die and add that to 2, and that's going to be the level of the character. No, it's not how I'm going to do it. Roll a 6-sided die, divide it by 2, and add that to 2. So the character can be up to 5th level. So here we go. We get a 5. 5 divided by 2, you round up. You always round up. So that's a 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. So we end up with our blacksmith is level 5. And I want to write the level in pencil so I can change it. Because the longer somebody does something, the more apt they are to get better at it. If you spend your whole life drawing eyeballs, eventually you're going to get pretty good at drawing eyeballs. You might not be able to draw anything else, but you'll be good at drawing an eyeball. So, there you go. That's the basis behind that. We want, as the players advance, the townspeople advance. And this is going to be a small town. It's only going to be 2 or 3 buildings. And the first building, of course, is going to be the blacksmith's house. So we'll just do a little cottage here. And that's going to represent the blacksmith's house. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. But that's where he lives. And then he has another area that's just like a lean-to. So it would look from the side, it would look kind of like this. Or from the... Yeah, I'm not a good artist. And you'd have your little anvil and your forge. And that's where he would work. That's where he would do his work. Why is it important to have a blacksmith? Well, let's say you find an old chainmail and it doesn't fit you, or you find bits of chainmail, you can take it to the blacksmith and he'll buy the metal. An old sword that's broken, you take it and he'll either try to reforge it or he'll just buy the metal. So yeah, there's a good reason to have a blacksmith around, because he will buy metal from you. But we need some stats for the blacksmith. Most important, strength and constitution. I'm going to roll 4 dice. I'm going to take the highest 2 and add that to 6. Which may sound kind of strange. There you go. His strength is 18. His constitution, I'm just going to give him the regular constitution roll, 4 dice, and subtract the lowest. And he gets, not bad, a 15 constitution. None of the rest of it's important. His intelligence doesn't matter, his wisdom doesn't matter, his dexterity, yeah, that matters a little bit. We'll go ahead and roll his dexterity. Not too good. He struggles, but most of the time he hits the anvil and not his hand. It's actually an 8. Slightly below average, but I mean, so he's not the best in the world, but he's adequate. And you got to remember, he's a journeyman, so he will get better over time. So he needs hit points. So that's the next thing we got to figure out, is how many hit points does he have at 5th level? He's a 5th level and he's a journeyman. He's not a master, he's a journeyman. So, like player characters, I give him one 8-sided die automatically. He gets that straight up. He gets an 8 to begin with. Then we roll this 4 times to see what the rest of his, what else he gets. Now, 15 Constitution should give him a +1 to his dice roll. So in theory, he would start with a 9, but I don't, because that's not the way I do it. He starts with an 8, unmodified 8. That's 0 level, and then we roll 5 times for his actual hit points. So there's 16 plus 1 is 17. 21 plus 1 is 22. 29 plus 1 is 30, and that's what, 3? Plus 6 is 36, that's his 4th. And plus 5 is 41 hit points. That is not bad at all. You can say the constitution and strength come from the fact that he's been working a forge and working with his hammer all his whole life. You can, you can go with that. Next, you assign him a name. I'm not going to give him a name right now. I might give him a name later. But that's the first. We now have our first NPC. Next week, we'll do another NPC. Because there's got to be more people than just a blacksmith. Now, blacksmith, he can make arrowheads for you. He can make swords. He can make a shield if he needs to. Not so much. He can do wagon wheel. He can repair wagon wheels. Yeah, a blacksmith has to be able to do a lot of different stuff. He can shoe your horses. He could make plate mail if he had to. It would take him a very long time and be very expensive. And because of his dexterity, probably not the best quality in the world. But he could do it. And so that's our first character, our first NPC. And that's how it's done. I mean, it's pretty easy. So that didn't take very long. Let's make another one. How about an innkeeper? Actually, because, and a lot of times the innkeeper won't be very far from the blacksmith, and he has an inn. How many rooms in the inn? Well, let's see. Let's roll a 12-sided die. See how many rooms he has in his inn. I want you to be able to see the. Wow, it just keeps rolling, doesn't it? There we go, an 11. He has his great room and his kitchen. So he has a great room. And that's where the dining room, basically. Then he has a kitchen. And 9 rooms for rent. Nope. One of those rooms is his. 8 rooms for rent. Each room might have 3 or 4 beds. He would not rent a room. He would rent a bed. Basically gives you a place to sleep. So let's see what he gets. We're going to roll him just to standard. We need all of his stuff, all of his stats. We need to know how strong he is. We need to know what his constitution is. We need to know his charisma, because that's important. We need his intelligence. We need his wisdom. And we need his dexterity. So I'm just going to roll these straight. 3. Not bad. He's a 12 strength. So, yeah, probably for moving around barrels and stuff. He's got an 8 intelligence. It's slightly low, but not bad. He's got a 10 constitution, so that's about average. A 10 wisdom, again, about average. 10, 13, he's likable. Oh, this guy can do a backflip while serving you a beer. He's got a 16 dexterity. He might have... There's a possibility that he might have been a thief at one time, but no guarantee. Well, my camera shut off. I don't know why. I'll go over what I had on the innkeeper. It cut off sometime while I was making it up. He had a strength of 12, constitution of 10, charisma 13, intelligence of 8. That is not low. That's average. 8 to 10 is average. Wisdom is 10. Dexterity is 16. He has a great room, a kitchen, his own room, and 8 rooms that he has bunks in or beds in that he could rent. I would venture to say maybe 10 by 10 rooms, fairly small rooms with bunk style beds, so you might be able to fit 4 of them in. You know, basically you open the door and there's just 4 beds and that's it. Nothing fancy. Although it's possible that he might have one 10 by 10 room that only has 1 bed because somebody rents it on a permanent basis. That's a possibility also. He ended up with 31 hit points and a level 5. I'm sorry you didn't get to see those rolls. It's one of those things that happens. So he's average intelligence. You know, he's a good innkeeper. And he's quick. You know, I mean, he can do the tricks with the bottles if he needs to for drinks, and he can make a decent meal. And of course, he would have a wife or a scullery maid. He'd have somebody that would cook food for him as well. So, yeah. So you have this level 5, but you also have other lower levels that work for him or with him. It could be a waiter or a waitress, or a maid that serves beer or food. Maybe somebody that works in the kitchens. He might have, it could be anything. Same thing with the blacksmith. The chances are he'll have one or two apprentices. Even as a journeyman, he might have one or two apprentices that just help him out. They keep the fires going. They keep the billows going, and in turn, as he gets better, he will teach them a few things about working metals. So there we go. We've got 2 characters so far. The innkeeper is important. He can act as your money changer. He can buy stuff from you. If you kill a boar and bring it to him, he might buy it from you. He might buy deer. He might buy rabbits. If you go hunting, he might buy whatever you bring back for game. He might actually contract you to go out and kill game for him, hunt for him. The blacksmith might ask you to go and pick up a load of metal that he has coming from another town and you needs an escort. You might do that. So 2 characters, they can interact with the players and possibly send them on some smaller missions until they get into some good stuff. So there you go. And over the next week, I'll get out some paper if I can find it. I have some graph paper somewhere, I think. And I'll make little schematics of what the buildings look like. This will probably be 2 stories, with the lower story being the Great Hall, the kitchen, and his rooms. And then the upper would be the 8 rooms, and there'd be a stairway going up to it. So yeah, we'll work on that for next week. And in the meantime, that's all I really wanted to cover this week. I could go into the what the average is for the dice and why 8 to 10 is average. And I might at some future date, but basically that's a hard number to get. 3 is very hard to get. So is 18. Those are the 2 hardest to get because there's only one combination in 3 6-sided dice that'll give you that. When you roll 4, you add into that instead of one combination that'll give it to you. You have 4 combinations that'll give it to you. By the same token, you have 4 combinations that'll give you all ones. So yeah. And I might go in a little bit into that later on. That's kind of advanced statistics or probability stuff, and I don't really want to get into it, but I might. So that's where we're sitting right now. We have 2 NPCs, and we are going to make a 3rd, and we'll do that next week, as well as start talking about actual adventures and maybe make up an adventure. So, yeah. We'll get into this again next week. In the meantime, make sure before you handle your dice, before you handle your paper, before you do anything, make sure you wash your hands. It's good for your collectibles. Most of all, it's good for your health. And we'll see you next time. Bye.